Welcome to Channel Mimic, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Cao Yang, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one on getting all the insight. Now today is previously have been promoted, and obviously the state of South Australia has said that on the 25th of August 2022 they will be announcing, well they did not announce it, but their state nomination has officially opened. So in this video today we would like to take you in a little bit of detail of how the state of South Australia's nomination actually works. Now just to give you an overview, I don't think there's too much of differences between the previous requirement and last year's requirement and today's requirement. And there is a part that, remember, used to have the innovation part where you can actually start up your business in South Australia and get that 491 visa. I don't think it's there anymore, as previously we have seen through its newsletter. It doesn't show that anymore, so I believe it's gone. I think it's not really good. It should really open for graduates with the opportunity to, you know, having their own entrepreneurship, as how they have promoted in Queensland. I think that's the only state, and the other one will be Tasmania and also Canberra. But obviously Tasmania and Canberra is a fairly small economy. Being entrepreneurial is not a problem, but with a small economy, the risk is actually very high. So I think if you want to do business, Queensland will be the one to go. Anyway, let's get into the actual detail, and let's jump into South Australia's immigration's website. So now, first but not least, we'll come back to this page at the end of this video. Why? This is the most important and most useful page for South Australia. So it has a search engine for all your occupation list, because South Australia has putting into so many different streams, getting everyone confused, and I just don't like it. You know, it's, if they want to be straightforward just like Victoria, that's good, but they decided to have a lot of streams, just like how the Tasmanian government has promoted it. So it makes it very complicated. In a way, if you wanted to just find out what your option is, punching in your occupation. So for example, software, let's just put in software engineer. Then you see software engineer, and it will say what streams that you have. So you got graduate, you got working in South Australia, you got long term, and blah blah blah. So they will show you all type of stream, and each of the stream, what is accessible, what is available, and the required point there. And so that's why I'm saying this is the best way that you can actually find out whether you are eligible and what sort of pathway you are required to go through. So you put in chef, again same thing, it does all the stream required point. You can see that it's all dropped back to the minimum, that's 65 points. That's great. Some of the conditions it will show up down here. It's available for 190 and 491, so great. And what else can we do? Is nurse. So let's just punch in nurse for NEC. As you can see, same thing. That way it's actually easier to actually have a good read about this. And this is probably the best part about this video, and the rest will be going through some detail. But anyway, I'm still committed to get it done. Let's jump into the nomination. So as you can see now, so wordy here, don't really like it. But anyway, just for the sake of this video, I'll still need to go through them together for you. But the easiest way is still go back to the search engine. That's easier. Okay, and there's not much of differences, so you can study in South Australia and graduate you are in South Australia working there now, or you're in outer region of South Australia. So for example, you work in a vineyard, winery, agricultural field out there, somewhere near Northern Territory border. Yeah, that's the outer region. And long-term residents. So if you've been living in South Australia long enough, we'll see the long-term residence criteria. High skill and talent. That basically means you have very good GPA and the academic performance. And people who are offshore, there's also other requirement there. As you can see, the being entrepreneurial, owning a business, establish a startup business is no longer in the area that South Australia will like, which is a pity. I think it should still have it, but anyhow, that's how the state of South Australia. Now bear in mind, South Australia did have a change of government. It used to be governed by the Liberal Party, and now it's by the Labour Party as well. So that's probably why the intention has a little bit changed. Alright, let's jump into the first stream. So what's this one? Skilled migrants, international graduates. So I think this is pretty straightforward. What does it mean? So it means basically you study in South Australia and you have your occupation, check the occupation list. That's basically everything in there. Currently living and work in South Australia, have a positive skill assessment, have at least competent English, that's 6. And I got 65 points. And complete a qualification in South Australia higher education, provided you make the following study. So you either done a course for 46 weeks, or you have done actually 50% of your studies in South Australia. So you can actually do, unlike Queensland, they want you to do 100% of the courses in Queensland, but South Australia, fine, no problem, just 50%. You know, you can study half of your course in Melbourne and then come to South Australia, no problem. We welcome you. And that's basically it, unless you specify nomination skill occupation work is at least. So this is post-study that they needed. And high perform graduates, let's have read. What do you need? If you're high performing graduates, you need to have a proficient English, which is still quite standard. Make the minimum GPA specified on a nominated occupation. So you need to actually go to your occupation. For example, if we go back there and click on the nurses, and if we scroll down to where it says high skilled talent, is that where it is? Or no, study graduates, high performing. Yeah, here we go. You need a GPA of 6.0. Wow, that's a little bit too high. But however, that's where you actually find if you want to become a high-performing graduates. So that's for international students previously studied in South Australia, and you can actually go through that way. Again, how do you find out your occupation's requirement? You go back to the occupation list, and all you need to do is, let's go civil engineer. And it will show you. So if you study graduate, you need the GPA of 60.0, and all different stream is listed down here. So that's basically how you read and how you actually find out whether or not you're eligible for South Australia's criteria. Now next one is what's this one? Working in South Australia. So I think this is pretty straightforward. You need to be at least 65 points and you actually work in South Australia. So there's no brainer. And again, how do you find out the detail? You go back to the occupation list here and you will see working in South Australia, what is the requirement there. You have been working there for 18 months and you get 190. You're working there for 6 months, you get 491. So that's basically how you find out. Now the next one is outer regional South Australia. Now again, the topic is pretty self-explanatory. Basically mean you live and work in outer region of South Australia. So if you're out there, then you meet that requirement, and your employer must also be there as well. Again, how do we find out the detail? I mean, all of this, it's quite redundant, don't you think? it's easier to just go back to the actual occupation list and scroll down to the outer region of South Australia criteria for that particular occupation, and you will say see nomination requirement. Well, that's pretty easy. That basically says you has to be working, living in outer region South Australia. So it's pretty straightforward. That's why I'm saying all this is quite redundant. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. We don't need to be educated in order to know where is outer regional South Australia. Obviously, outside of Adelaide, that will meet the requirement. Okay, now next one, long-term resident. Now, how do you become a long-term resident? Now let's scroll down and see within the timing and things. So be currently working 6 months. Have at least 12-month work experiences. That's pretty easy because every graduate, every student graduates will actually meet that requirement. So some of these streams are actually overlapping each other. So because, like, for example, working and also the long term, which one do you meet the requirement? I think you need to pick that during at the South Australia portal that I'm going to show you later. During a 12-month experience, you have worked at least 491 for 20 hours, 190 for 30 hours. That's not too bad. That is not too bad. Occupational with specific requirement. There's a special requirement for accountants and cooks, safe haven enterprise holders. That's another additional stuff like that. So again, we go back to the occupation list and we can see that highly skilled talent, long term. Again, based. I don't even think this is actually long term. I mean, what, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? That's not even long term. I mean, doesn't it say something like 5 years or something like that? But it seems pretty easy. You see, 12 months, 6 months, and there's not much stuff out there. I think they drop the requirement. So anyway, again, I think that's just redundant with the working South Australia, because if you work in South Australia, you will easily meet this one too. So which stream's better? I don't know. And okay, next one is what's this one? Highly skilled and talented people. You need to register your interest if you meet eligibility. Critical priority sector. After you put in your ROI, is review. So what can you do here? You need to be proficient English, skill assessment under 45, get 65 points, ending at the base salary threshold, commensurate with 80,000 plus, and that's it. So you get high pay after you graduate. You must be very talented. Then obviously you meet that requirement. So that's the general guideline. And for onshore, obviously you need to show the contract employment and things like that, and then employer need to show that the business have been operating at least 12 months, the annual turnover of at least 4 million. I mean, why would this require be there? I thought this is skill visa for the applicants. Why would they need the employer to show that? Obviously, well, if they what if the employer is only turns over 2 million, but they can actually pay 80 grand for a salary, so that won't meet the requirement? I don't know. I think this is not quite good, because there's a lot of big corporation. They get a lot of subsidiaries, and they probably use subsidiaries to actually pay the salary. So in that scenario, probably won't meet the requirement, wouldn't it? I don't know. Anyway, offshore applicants demonstrate that you have extensive experience working in sector, highly skilled jobs and things. Anyway, and critical priority sector, high tech, green energy, defense, advanced manufacturing, agribusiness, creative industry, and health and lifestyle. That's almost basically everything. But anyway, that's what it is. Okay, now last but not least, the offshore. Now, great, because all the states and territories are open for offshore now. So as South Australia. Now, what is the differences here? I honestly, I don't know. Let's jump into the occupation list. Basically, this is for nurse. You can only do 491. Highly skilled offshore applicants submit expression of interest. That's it. And as long as you're offshore, yeah, sure, we're offshore. And you just wait. So there's no accessible for 190 if you're going offshore. Well, there are, but I think very limited in some of the specialized occupation there. And other than that, that is it. Now, let's go last but not least, but jumping back to the occupation list. This is just the procedure require. So basically it tells you need to get your passport, skill assessment, English, qualification, work experience, residing in South Australia, and blah, 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 all done. Okay, so sure, we need to get all that done. Now, the process of doing South Australia's application is you need to obviously get your EOI done, and then you jump into the South Australia's portal, going there and putting into your ROI, or expression of interest, for if you are a high performer or skilled person, whichever you pick. Then you wait. You wait for the actual invitation and the contact by the government of South Australia. Then you will need to supply all the documents in order to meet all the requirements, and you will formally be invited to lodge the visa. Now, jump back to the occupation list. So the most important things for South Australia is obviously this page, the occupation list search engine, because this page will get you all the information that we have just gone through. And I think this is far the best search engine that the government of Australia has actually invented. It's just a pity that they have a lot of these details, which is required. Yeah, I understand, but just a lot of redundant stuff, because most of the information is all here. So if you are a let's say a beef cattle farmer, obviously you can go through all the different streams, and the different requirement is underneath of different streams, so you can have a good read about it. So all you need to do, rather than going through all these wordy criteria, all you need to do is come here. If you're a marketing specialist, right, punch in your occupation and click on the actual occupation, then you find out which stream is most suitable, and all you need to do is you need to digest this page. That's it. That's the simplest way that you can actually find out how you actually meet those stream and criteria under the policy issued on the 25th of August 2022 by the government of South Australia. Anyway, should you have more question and query, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below. I'll see you next video. Goodbye.